What's up, Nerf herders? So we need to talk about this ending to WandaVision episode 5. Spoiler warning. If you've not seen episode 5 yet, go back, watch it, come back and check this out because this was a bombshell of a drop.
Yeah, this was insane, man. I mean, I love this series so far, and it seems like at the end of every episode, they just hit us with a killer, like, cliffhanger. You know what I mean? And now we have Quicksilver. Like, how crazy is that? Like, we've officially brought in the X-Men universe, and we've been wondering forever, like, how they're going to do it.
Yeah, and they drop it right into WandaVision, the Disney Plus show, and Evan Peters drops in at the end of this. And it's so insane, dude, because after Disney has bought out Fox and now Fox has moved in, we're all thinking about where the X-Men fall into this. And now Evan Peters comes in, and as genius as this show has been to pull Quicksilver from that X-Men universe that's been established with Fox and drop him into this here, like this could be the opening to the mutants 100%, which is insane.
Yeah, it really is. It's so cool because it's like, you know, it's a great way to integrate the two because obviously her real brother died in Age of Ultron and everyone was just like, okay, well, they never officially called her brother Quicksilver, right? Because of the rights and everything. So now that they actually have the real Quicksilver, I love how they were like, oh, she recasted her brother, you know, she recasted it. It's like just a clever way to drop it in.
Yeah, it was super clever. And for those of you who aren't fully up to speed with everything with the rights and all that, Fox owned the X-Men and Disney had Marvel, but they couldn't use the name mutants in the MCU for forever. They couldn't use the X-Men because Fox owned the rights to that. So now that Disney's acquired the rights to Fox, the X-Men, in theory, could come into the MCU either by rebooting the franchise or, in this case, almost a subtlety hint that there is that possibility that everybody that they've established from First Class, Days of Future Past, you know, through those series, that we might see them come into this here. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's awesome. I think it's needed. You know, they really need to start bringing in more characters into the MCU because I think with the Avengers and Endgame, they kind of exhausted some of those storylines and those characters. And I don't think you want to see that moving forward. I think you want to start bringing in new people, but it's a smart move to bring in already established people. Because if you go back and watch, you know, X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, you know who these characters are. So now you can integrate them into the Avengers universe. Now you can start, you know, building on top of that, but you don't have to do any origin stories anymore. You know, that's a big thing.
What do you think they'll do? Do you think this is just Quicksilver because it makes sense and it's a fun little plan and everything? Or do you think that this would open up that possibility where we're going to see James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, and all of them coming into this? I mean, what do you think? What do you think the big pull is here?
They're all coming, dude. So this is my prediction. So I think
multiverse, dude.
Exactly. So they're building on the multiverse. I think we're going to see Doctor Strange very soon. I think this little bubble that Wanda has created, the Hex, is a multiverse. And I think we're going to see that. And what's very clever about this is it seems like right around the time that Days of Future Past takes place, like in a timeline, is the same setting as this episode of WandaVision. Because right now we're like at like 70s, 80s, right? So like, you know, we started in the 50s and then every episode it's kind of like a decade later. So now Quicksilver shows up and it's approximately like the 70s and 80s era, which is where Days of Future Past takes place, or in that kind of, you know, I don't know, that timeline, right? I don't know the exact off the top of my head where it is, but it seems very fitting that now we're getting that introduction. So how has Wanda tapped into this other universe? I mean, is the X-Men coming over from just another universe that is maybe just like a different timeline of the same, you know, world we live in, right? That might be something they bring it in.
Dude, that's a really good point, man. I didn't think about that till you just said it, but yeah, what she's doing and how she's controlling everything might not be on our Earth as we see it, where she's controlling this piece, but she's taken this town and has actually separated it from what our universe is, the normal MCU universe. And maybe this little town exists in what the multiverse would be in the X-Men universe. So for Quicksilver to show up and visit isn't her doing anything. He's just in his own universe and just dropped by because that's where this is taking place. That's a really interesting thought, dude.
Yeah, I think that would be such a cool way to do it. Because think of like think of Back to the Future. You have Hill Valley 1985 and then alternate 1985. That's kind of how I see this. This town is, you know, an alternate universe of sorts, but it does exist because
Right.
when they're outside of this bubble, they say the town doesn't exist. They're like, there is no town here, right?
But it does in that other
So
universe, dude.
it does in
Yeah.
that other universe. So that's how I think they're going to start incorporating this, or at least I hope they do. I think that would be a very clever way to do it, is you just keep, you know, she's somehow tapped into this alternate universe. And then maybe that's how we bring in Doctor Strange. Maybe Doctor Strange knows like kind of the hidden secrets of the universe. And that's what's going to play into the multiverse of madness and everything else like that.
Dude, 100%. And since we know obviously that Wanda is going to cross into the Doctor Strange film, and that really opens up that door there. That's a really interesting thought. That'd be so clever, man, if that's kind of how they brought this together like that. Because we see at the end, right before Quicksilver shows up, Vision obviously being kind of marionetted by her, but he's becoming self-aware of the situation within this as well. And when they start to have that conversation and the doorbell rings and he's under the impression that she's running everything, it seems very sincere that she's like, I didn't make that happen. And so
Right.
I feel like legit Quicksilver is showing up. Like she didn't recreate him to where he showed up. There's a really good chance that this happened outside of what her control is because they set that little conversation up beforehand and she was caught so off guard by it. But it was crazy because she recognized him too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot going on here that you can pull a million threads, you know, as to what they're actually trying to do with this, because it's a cliffhanger. Obviously, we gotta wait a week now.
But it's like, you're right. Like she's very genuine when she answers the door, that she's like emotionally like, oh my God, my brother, you
Right.
know, if she had planned it, if she had done it herself, I don't think we'd be seeing anything like that. I don't think we'd see that emotion because she would be expecting him to arrive.
And you
This
see
is
Aaron
something
Taylor Johnson.
right. So this
Yeah.
is out of nowhere. Oh my gosh, like I didn't know you were around here. So that's my thought is like, are we going to see some of these other mutants coming in, you know, and I mean, who knows? This whole alternate universe could be how mutants exist. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, if Sword like somehow taps into this bubble, that's how we can kind of have that crossover. Maybe they bring the mutants out of the bubble into our reality, or maybe they
Right.
go into that reality and then they start exploring. Maybe that's where we get all these other villains, right? Maybe we pull some of these villains out of different universes instead of the one we know for the Avengers.
Right. Yeah, which would kind of play into, which was almost like a little tease with what they did in Far From Home with Jake Gyllenhaal and Mysterio and all of that, which is good, just clever because that obviously turned into kind of a Mandarin kind of a sham thing, and then we'll see where they kind of run with it. But wouldn't it be funny too if like all the speculation and all this hype and excitement, and instead of this being anything, they just said, well, we kind of have the rights to use this character. Now let's hit up Evan Peters and see if he'd be cool just dropping in just for the fun of it, you know? And this is all just like a little cutesy thing to take advantage of.
That would
That'd be the
be
real kicker.
that'd be pretty funny. But I mean, I do think like I think this was strategic. I feel like there's more to it than this. And I feel like this is a great segue into like the Fantastic Four because they're going to be coming into the universe now. And I feel like it all started with the blip. You know, I think as soon as Thanos snapped his fingers, I think that created these multiverses. I think it did something to the universe to you know, maybe the radiation or the different things that go on in the cosmos built these universes and made everything kind of accessible now. You know,
Yeah.
because even the guy, the director, I forgot his name, of Sword, he's even talking about like when the blip occurred, I lost all of my like astronauts and my staff, like I lost all these people. And that'd be
Right.
interesting too, because I was also reading, you know, some theories on like, well, the Fantastic Four, their origin is technically they are astronauts and they're in space, and then they get hit with cosmic radiation, and that gives them their powers. What if the
Right.
blip does that, and then maybe they're, you know, a part of Sword, and that's how we establish that connection? You know, there's a
Dude,
lot of
100%.
possibilities. But I think
Dude.
this moving forward, I think WandaVision is going to be kind of the key to a lot of these doors unlocking within the multiverse.
Yeah. And what's so cool about it too, man, because Kevin Feige said straight up, he's like, these shows are going to be very relevant to the greater MCU. And they're proving that. And I love that they committed to that and they're doing that because you could easily do these shows and make them where they're, you know, tied in, but it's almost like Star Wars. You know, you've got like the films, but then you say, oh, this book is canon, these comics are canon. Well, you can keep it so separated to where it doesn't really go in,
Right.
but it's there. But this is integrated and woven into everything, and I love that they're bringing back, you know, all these other side characters and everything. They're really doing a great job with this. So we gotta hang tight, see what happens in episode 6. And you know, for everybody else, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to keep up with the latest. We're going to have a much better setup for this moving forward, but we had to hop on here and at least kind of share our thoughts with everything, and a lot more content coming on the way. So peace out, nerders.